Welcome to the Teapot Reads. I'm the Teapot. This is what I'm currently reading, and I'm so happy to see you today. Welcome back to another seasonal wrap-up. And here we have Tink all joining us again. Hi, sweetie. I know he doesn't understand the camera. And that's who I'm talking to. So he thinks I'm talking to him, and it's his playtime a little bit. So he's going to be popping in and out. I have been doing seasonal wrap-ups because I am a slow reader, and so monthly wrap-ups just don't work for me. Some months it would probably be like one book, other months it would be like not even one. That's a little bit of an understatement. I guess I do read a couple books every month, but it's so unreliable. And so yeah, I like to do seasonal wrap-ups. If you're curious about my last couple seasonal wrap-ups, I will tag the most recent one up here, and I will also link some down below. I also am combining this with my TBR. I have gotten rid of using a TBR. It just hasn't been working for me lately. Sometimes it works really well, but I have been a major mood reader lately, and it has been bringing me a lot of joy to be able to mood read and sort of choose off the cuff what I want to read. There are a couple titles that I'm excited for this coming winter though, so I am going to mention those at the end. I don't want to ignore them because I probably will be reading them during winter, and I will probably be reading them fairly early in the winter season. So it's a little bit of a tiny TBR just because I like these books and I'm excited. I also am not including any manga in this wrap-up. I do a separate wrap-up for my manga. I will link that above and below. Go check that out if you're curious. Again, didn't read a lot of manga this season either. It just wasn't a big reading time for me. And I think that has to do with some of the titles that I read. I am filming this at the end of November, so the month is not over, but if I finish anything, it's just going to be one more book, and that book will be A Marvelous Light, because I've been reading it for a while. If you've, actually my vlog for this time period probably won't be going, up for a while. So if I finish anything, it'll probably be A Marvelous Light. I honestly can't imagine finishing anything this month, though. This month has been so busy. Work, family, just everything going on this month. But I did actually manage to read 10 books this season, which I thought was incredible. I was totally surprised that I had finished that many. It really doesn't feel like I've read that many books, and that's not including manga. I am so pleasantly surprised, just very pleased with myself. And yeah, I really felt like I hadn't read anything these last couple months. So yeah, a couple more interesting stats I will be glancing down because I had to write them down. 2 of the books that I read this season were graphic novels. 2 of them were rereads, and 4 of them were YA books. 1 was a nonfiction, that's probably the most surprising stat, and 3 of them received perfect 5 out of 5 stars. I will be putting star ratings down here as well as mentioning them, but I know I won't remember to mention all of them, so they will be listed down here as well. I also want to talk about goals I've set for myself. This year I had a couple overarching goals, one of them being reading quality over quantity, which I definitely think I did this season. There was only 1 book that disappointed me, and I'm still happy to have read it because I'm pleased to be part of the conversations around this book. Not that they're like profound conversations, but still I like to be able to talk about it. I also think it's just a beautiful looking book, so having read it, I don't feel as weird about having multiple copies on my shelves. If you've been following, you know what I'm talking about. My other major goal, I pretty much failed at this season. No, I did. I 100% failed at it, and that is to read diversely. I didn't read anything diverse. Everything was pretty much written by straight white people. Yeah, I just could have done a lot better. Part of it is because I did have 1 book that did take up a major chunk of my time, but the other part of it was just I wasn't reading consciously. I wasn't picking books to try to diversify my shelves when I bought them. I wasn't picking books to try to diversify my reading when I was reading them. I'm so sorry, he just knocked down the camera. Yes, I'm not mad. I'm not that mad. It's okay. Filming with him is sometimes very difficult, but I can't bear to put him away when he wants to, hang out. Very difficult. He just bit me in the face. I'm fine. He's fine. It was a puppy bite, but still. Oh my goodness. yeah, I just totally missed the mark on this goal this season. I had 3 months and yeah, didn't do anything. I'm really going to be working on it and towards this goal in the next 3 months. I don't have books picked out quite yet that I know I'm going to be reading, but it is a major goal of mine to read diversely. So when I talk... Oh, that did wrinkle. I dropped some books earlier and I just noticed that it did some damage. That's okay. When I talk later about the books that I want to read in winter, my kind of goal is going to be, after I finish these, because they're sort of... I have sort of an obligation for some of them. Once I finish those, I'm really going to try to do like 2 books of anything I feel like reading, you know, it could be diverse, doesn't have to be, and then 1 intentionally diverse read. I clearly still need to work on myself and on my shelf and getting diverse titles in there and in here. But enough of stats. Let's get into the books that I read this season. First of all, I listened to the audiobook of House of Salt and Sorrows by Aaron A. Craig. Fantastic. I gave this 4.5 stars because I did think some things wrapped up a little too easily, but overall I thought the book was fantastic and surprised me in a lot of the right ways, particularly in who the bad guy was. I kept thinking it would be one person and like being pretty convinced, and then it wouldn't be. I'd be like, okay, well then it has to be this person, and get like really convinced. And I'd be like, wait, shit, it's not them. It has to be this person. Like, it was great. Constantly kept me on my toes. Really subverted expectations as well as YA fantasy tropes. So I really did appreciate that. House of Salt and Sorrows is a sort of fantasy horror take on the 12 Dancing Princesses fairy tale, except the sisters keep dying, and our protagonist, Annalee, one of the sisters, is convinced something more powerful is happening, that someone's either killing them or there's something else going on, and she is trying to investigate and understand that. Really, really, really fantastic. Fully recommend this book. I really loved the aesthetic of the book. I fully felt like I could smell the sea while I was reading this book. It just immerses you in a great way. One of those books that really takes you out of where you're sitting and into a new place. Okay, then the 2 graphic novels I read. First up was Hooky. This is by Miriam Bonister. And then Volume 1 of A Witch, which was actually a reread. Let's talk about Hooky first. Hooky is great. It's got like Ghibli vibes to it. It is about a pair of twins who miss their bus to school, so they end up playing hooky. And because they don't want their parents to get mad at them for having missed school, they run off and basically end up becoming enemies of the state. And there's so much more going on, but it's really cute. Just a peek at the art, because I absolutely loved the art. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really cute. Like I said, major Ghibli vibes. It's a webcomic that's been adapted to fit into print form. And I believe it's going to be 3 volumes total. I cannot wait for volume 2. I should actually see if I can pre-order that, because I'm stoked. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. A little obsessed with it for about a week after I had finished it. It was the only thing I could think about. It's just great. It's just really great. Had a lot of nostalgia for my childhood. Like, this is exactly the kind of story I would have wanted to play at and pretend to be a part of and run around the playground, like, acting out. So yeah, I'm glad I did get to read it. I do wish it had existed when I was younger, though, so I could have fully realized it. But then a book that did exist when I was younger, and I did fully realize it, was the Witch series. This is Italian, I believe. And there was a series of novels that had some of the comics in them, as well as a TV show on Disney Channel that aired, and is about these 5 girls who basically find out they have elemental powers, which I lived for as a kid, and I was obsessed with the novels. They were like my jam. I liked the show a lot too, but the novels were what I preferred to be and taking. And this is just the graphic novel. This is the plot of the first 3 novels, I believe, 3 or 4. I really enjoyed it for nostalgic reasons. This story does not 100% hold up. I thought it was kind of thin. The characters didn't have a lot to do. Character growth was a bit stunted. I don't regret reading it, but I don't know if I'm going to read any more, even for nostalgic purposes. Then I listened, this was another audiobook, so if you watch my vlogs, I had an eye injury, so I was recovering from that and I couldn't really read, and during that time I read a couple audiobooks, and another one I read was Small Favors, also by Aaron A. Craig. After finishing a House of Salt and Sorrows, I was like, okay, I have to read her other book. This also sounded really good. I did not realize at the time this was an actual horror story and not just like fantasy horror. This is terrifying. I am going to give it its own video review at some point, so I don't want to dive too deep into it now. Basically, it's about Ellery. She lives in a small town in a sort of Appalachian pioneer type village, and they're all snowed in. They can't get out of the town. The town is slowly going crazy around her, and she's trying to protect her siblings. It was really good. It was really, really scary. I believe I gave this one 4.5 stars. But again, we'll put the ratings down here. This is another one that's getting its own video. Okay, and that is Winter Song by S.J. Jones. One of my favorite books of the year. If not my favorite book of the year. I was absolutely feral over this thing. It got 5 stars for me. Like 5 stars. I loved this. This is Labyrinth. If Labyrinth was a YA novel and also had spice in it. It is so good. Cannot recommend this enough. Absolutely phenomenal. Just on every level. Like I said, it's getting its own video, so I will gush about it there. I listened to this one on audiobook as well, and I will put the narrator's name down here because she did a phenomenal job. If I had been reading this book and had to pronounce all these German words on my own, I don't think I would have managed. She did a great job, and it actually really helped me sit in there immersively, because I was like, I still can't like pronounce some of the words, like the Erlkönig. I know I'm saying that wrong, but I loved hearing it. This is the book that took up most of my time, and the reason I thought I hadn't read more books these last couple months, and that is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Oh my god. Anna Karenina. You took me so long, my dear. I have a whole series of vlogs dedicated to it. It's about 4 hours long if you watch them all back to back, so yeah, that's just like the best place to look for my thoughts on it. I think I ended up giving this 4 stars or something. I didn't write it down. Again, it'll be down here. I've said that a couple times. I'm repeating it for my own reminder. This was a journey unlike anything else I've ever experienced. I've never read a classic of this size. I've never really read a book that was so expansive and large like this. Even fantasy novels, I don't think, have it up on Tolstoy, who really goes into some obscure moments and characters, and it's odd. It's an odd book. I'm very pleased to have read it. I actually think I will reread it someday. I think it's a book that I will have to return to at some point. Look at all these annotations. It was fun to actually annotate this book. I had a lot of fun annotating. I went through like 10 or 11 highlighters. Like, it was crazy. But yeah, Anna Karenina. I don't think there are words, really, for this book. That's why you have to go experience those 4 hours of me just reading it. Then we have the disappointment of the season. Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. Again, did a vlog and review for this one. I will link that above and below. Worth checking out, especially the review portion, which is at the end, because I talk about why it disappointed me so much. It was just such a fleeting story. I don't regret reading it, like I said, but I just really, really wish it would have been better. This is a continuation of the world from Caravel, which I think is silly because it has pretty much nothing to do with those books. It takes place in a different part of the world that feels so entirely disconnected. And it follows... what's her name? So sorry. Evangeline Fox. It follows Evangeline Fox as she goes to the ancient north to kind of compete for the heir, the prince, his heart. And while she's there, she kind of gets entangled with Jax, who's the Prince of Hearts, not to confuse you all, if you aren't familiar with this. And there's just adventure. I really didn't like it. I really, really didn't like it. I think the more time I spend away from it too, the more disappointed I am with it. Then I read Madame de Pompadour by Nancy Mitford. I picked this up because I've wanted to read a Nancy Mitford for a while, and I've been really interested in the person Madame de Pompadour since I saw her in that Doctor Who episode, or saw an actress portraying her in that Doctor Who episode, The Girl in the Fireplace, which is a fantastic episode. Even if you're not a fan of Doctor Who, strongly recommend it. It's a really great one. Madame de Pompadour is the most famous mistress of Louis XV and one of the most famous mistresses of the French court. She was in the court leading up basically to like Louis the 15th, and it's Louis the 16th, and then it's the Revolution during Louis the 16th and Marie Antoinette's reign. So this book really deals with like the final stages of like the golden era of the French aristocracy, and it's really sad and really nostalgic in that way. Not that I'm like pro aristocracy, but it's you know, you're watching a sort of way of life, as weird and bad as it was. Oh, hon. Did you scare yourself? You're watching a way of life die and be in its final stages, and that's kind of sad and nostalgic in a way. I don't really normally read a lot of nonfiction. At least I don't normally sit down and make it my main read. A lot of times I'll read a chapter or two of really interesting nonfictions at night before I go to bed, but it's been a long time since I've been like, yes, the nonfiction is going to be the book that I spend the most time reading. Really, really good. Nancy Mitford's writing did not disappoint. There's a lot of fun, bouncy writing in here, and it really illuminates not just Madame de Pompadour, but also Louis XV and other characters of the court at the time. And it was also really interesting to read a French history. I'm fairly familiar with British history, and I'm very familiar with American history, but I'm only passingly familiar with this, what I've learned basically through other literature or film. So I really, really enjoyed being able to read a history from that culture. And then I picked up the Winter Song was definitely my favorite book of the season, but this is a close second, and that is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is the first in the Murderbot Diaries series. It's a series of novellas plus a novel, which is more recent. It follows Murderbot, who is a AI robot type machine that is basically hacked their mainframe and now just watches a lot of television and is super antisocial, but also has a lot of guilt just built into them. And anyway, I loved Murderbot. Super relatable character. Don't know what that says about me. It's really fun. It's really funny. It is just amazing. This book is an experience. I've seen it rated so highly on so many people's videos, on their blogs, on just Twitter. Like, obviously, every time someone talks about this, they love it, and I'm also jumping on that bandwagon and loving it. I cannot wait to pick up volume 2 because it's just so very good. This is also, it gave me very Mbot vibes from the Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson, as well as Connor the Android vibes from Detroit Become Human, and I love both of those characters, so this kind of lets you live in their heads. It was delightful. It was better than either of them could have done it, though. And finally, a reread of Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. The Farseer trilogy is one of my favorite series of all time. And probably my favorite completed fantasy trilogy of all time. Book 1, Assassin's Apprentice, follows Fitz from his young childhood, I think he's 5 or 6 at the beginning of the story, to his mid-teen years. I don't think he gets much older than, I think he's like 16 maybe at the end of it, to about 10 years of his life. He is the bastard of the Crown Prince, and it's just kind of chronicling him as he's growing up. He's telling his own story as he's growing up. He is trained as an assassin as well as a sort of diplomat, and it's just a delightful, delightful read. I was rereading this because I'm buddy reading it with a friend, because I was like, you're going to love the series, you have to read it. And I was like, and I will buddy read it with you if that like helps convince you, and it did a little bit. So that's what I have been doing with these rereads, but it's such a pleasure to be back with them. Like, that just, it brings me so much joy. So yeah, and that's what I read this fall. That's what I read this autumn. As doing that, realized I actually did read one book that was diverse, and that was Winter Song by S.J. Jones, who's definitely not a white man. But I think that was it. I still lost my challenge. My winter goals are obviously going to continue to read diversely. I'm really going to aim for 25%. I know that's not great, but baby steps. If I can get more than that, I would be really proud of myself. But I'm not going to set the bar too high for myself quite yet. I want it to be manageable, because if I can't manage it, then I'll just be disappointed in myself. And anyway, I can't take that at the moment. I also want to try to read some middle grade. There are some middle grade series I've had on my shelf for a while that I really want to read, and I feel like it's going to be nice and cozy and fun to read something a little lighter. And it'll be quick. I've read a lot of long, sloggy books, and I think I need something quick and fun kind of in the next couple months, especially. I love winter. It's my favorite season, but the long nights, as much as I adore them, do take a toll eventually, and I'm gonna need something to really cruise me through there. So I think middle grade is really the path to go. But honestly, that's all I have for goals. I'm just gonna try to remind myself that reading is a pleasure and a leisure and something I enjoy doing, which is a fact that weirdly enough I forget all the time. Now, books that are on my winter TBR. This is not a strict TBR. They're just kind of books I really want to read in the next couple months, as well as books that will be coming out in the next couple months, and so therefore I want to read them when they come out. First of all is continuing my reread of the Farseer trilogy with Royal Assassin and with Assassin's Quest. Like I said, I am buddy reading these with a friend, so yes, that's why I'm going to be reading these quite soon. I also want to reread The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I read it when it came out 2 years ago, and I ended up just accidentally kind of rereading it around this time last year, so I was like, why not do it purposefully and make this just a thing, because I love this book. It's my favorite novel. No, well, it's my second favorite novel. It was my favorite novel until I read A Little Life, but I'm not rereading that book anytime soon. Yeah, The Starless Sea, I thought it would be really great to return to that before the year is out. This book is just phenomenal. If you've not read it, seriously go read it. It's just amazing. And then for books that are coming out December, January, February. In January, we have To Paradise, Hanya Yanagihara's newest book, and I am just like stoked. I have 2 copies pre-ordered. We'll probably end up pre-ordering more at some point, just to hoard this book. I cannot wait. There will definitely be a reading vlog for it. I am also really excited for the next Sarah J Maas book, which is a sequel to House of Blood and Earth. So I think it's House of Sky and Breath, or Breath and Sky. I thought it was coming out in January. I think it was pushed to February. I'll put the release date down here. I'm really excited. This will also probably get a reading vlog. I loved the first Crescent City book, so I know I'm going to just adore this one. I have really, really high hopes for it. I'm also really hoping we see more of the otters, not gonna lie. And finally, The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. This is by Axie O, I believe. This comes out in February. Super excited for this one. It is top of my list. I don't know if it's going to get a vlog, but it will probably get a review because I just am very, very excited. I am predicting 5 stars for this one. Actually predicting 5 stars for all 3 of those. Not gonna lie. I hope I'm not jinxing myself there. But that is all for me. I know the beginning of this was a little hectic because Tank was here, but I think he got sad and has wandered off, which I do feel a bit bad about. I feel as if I've scared him off, so I'm going to go give him attention. If you are here with me and you are enjoying this video and you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. For everyone who is already subscribed, thank you so much for subscribing. I love you all. You all just make my days every time I see one of you pop up. Sorry, camera fell over again. If you're somewhere cold, I hope you're staying warm. If you're somewhere warm, I hope you're staying comfortable. And most of all, I hope you're reading a great book. I will see you guys next time. Bye!